for joining us here on Republic TV. In a few minutes from now, we will be breaking an exclusive story. My colleagues Abhishek, Rhythm and Aishwarya will be joining us live in just a few minutes. The story about what was supposed to be the big sporting moment for India, a day after we celebrated 75 years of freedom. A big letdown. We'll tell you all about that in just about 3 to 4 minutes. But first up, the story breaking in from Karnataka. Let's go across to that in about 3 to 4 minutes. The story on FIFA, breaking story by Ridhaman Bharadwaj. On to Karnataka now, and where there's a tape. There's an alleged tape. Not alleged anymore, because even the minister heard in this particular tape is not denying the existence of a tape. His name is J.C. Madhuswamy. He's a law minister of Karnataka. Was heard in a tape saying that the government in Karnataka is on autopilot. He said the government is being managed. He's saying there's nobody in charge of the government in Karnataka. Big embarrassment for the BJP and the Basavaraj Bommai government. Big setback to them, because it's an embarrassment that they won't deny. Let's play out that tape doing the rounds. First up.
ಸರ್ ನಮಸ್ತೆ. ನಾವು ಭಾಸ್ಕರ್ ಅಂತ ಸೋಷಿಯಲ್ ವರ್ಕರ್ ಚನ್ನಪಟ್ಟಣದಿಂದ ಸರ್. ಸರ್, ಇದು VSSN ಬ್ಯಾಂಕಲ್ಲಿ 50,000 ಸಾಲ ತಗೊಂಡಿರ್ತಾರೆ ರೈತರು. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಕಟ್ಟಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ರಿನ್ಯೂವಲ್ಗೆ ಅಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು 1,300 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಬ್ಯಾಂಕ್ನವರೇ ಸಿಬ್ಬಂದಿಗಳೇ ತಗೊಂಡು ಅವರೇ ಫುಲ್ ದುಡ್ಡನ್ನ ಅಮೌಂಟ್ನ ಕಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಆ 1,300 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಬಡ್ಡಿಗೆ ಅಂತ ಇಟ್ಕೊತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಎಲ್ಲ ಆಲ್ ಓವರ್ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲೇ.
ಏನಪ್ಪ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿ, ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ನನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತು.
ಹೌದು ಸರ್.
ಎಲ್ಲ ಸನ್ಮಾನ್ಯ ಸೋಮಶೇಖರ್ ಗಮನಕ್ಕೆ ತಗೊಂಡೋಗಿದ್ದೀವಿ.
ಹಾಂ ಸರ್.
ಬಡ್ಡಿ ಹೊಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ ತಿಂತಾವ್ರೆ, ಅಡಿಷನಲ್ ಶೇರ್ಸ್ ತಗೋತಾವ್ರೆ, ಅದ್ರೂ ಬಡ್ಡಿ ಕಟ್ಟಿಸ್ಕೊಂತಾವ್ರೆ ಅಂತ ಎಲ್ಲ.
ಹಾಂ ಸರ್.
ಅವ್ರೇನೋ ಕ್ರಮ ಜರುಗಿಸ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ, ಏನ್ ಮಾಡೋಣ ನಾನು.
ನೋಡಿ ಸರ್, ಏನೋ ಒಂಥರ ರೈತರನ್ನ ಒಂಥರ ಮಂಗಗಳ ತರ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟವ್ರು ಸರ್ ಇವರು ಬ್ಯಾಂಕ್ನವರು.
ನಾನೇ ಕಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀನಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಅಡಿಷನಲ್ ಶೇರ್ ರೈತರು ಅಲ್ಲ.
ಹಾಂ ಸರ್.
ನನ್ನ ತೋಲೆ ತಗೊಂಡವ್ರಿ.
ನೋಡಿ ಸರ್, ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಒಂದು ರೀತಿ ಏನೋ ಒಂಥರ ಸರಿಯಾಗಿ ಕಾಣಿಸಲ್ಲ ಸರ್ ಇದು ನೋಡಕ್ ಅಲ್ವಾ.
ಸರ್ಕಾರ ನಡೀತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು ಅಷ್ಟೇ.
ಹಾಂ ಸರ್.
ಸಲೀಸ್ ಸಾಕಿ 8 ತಿಂಗಳು ಅಂತ.
ಹಾಂ ಸರ್.
ಕಲ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದು ಕಣಪ್ಪ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ನಾವು.
And the big story being broken by Republic TV. Yesterday we completed 75 years of freedom. The Tiranga flying high across the country. But was India's football moment? Was it sabotage from within? Ridhaman Bharadwaj, my colleague and Executive Editor, Legal Affairs and Governance, joining us live on the broadcast. She has access to documents that tell you what really happened.
Yes.
Let me go across to Rhythm. Over to you, Rhythm.
All right, a very good evening to all the people joining us on Republic TV. And this really reminds us of an overhaul that India did and the Supreme Court did on cricket in 2013. Today, Niranjan, it's 2022 and it's the same situation that we are seeing again. However, this time it's football. And a committee that was appointed by the Supreme Court, the COA, is looking into the workings of the Football Federation in India. I want to make it very simple as to what has happened. A letter has been written by Praful Patel. Praful Patel was the former chief of the Football Federation. He was at the helm of powers for nearly 16 years. And he wrote a letter to FIFA stating that the Supreme Court appointing a COA could be seen as a third-party interference. So I want to break this down to make our viewers understand. The letter hinted that if the Supreme Court appoints a body to look into how the workings of FIFA has to happen and the Indian Federation elections has to happen, then the Supreme Court's actions could be the actions of a, in quoted commas, third party. This is what has caused an outrage. Republic TV accesses the letter that has been written by former chief of All India Football Federation, Praful Patel. After going through the letter, we saw that a statement was issued by FIFA to Indian Federation, and they said that we are first warning you, and then they have suspended all the activities that are happening and are to happen in India, which is the Under-17 Women's World Cup. This is one aspect of it. The second aspect is we've spoken to sources within the committee of administrators that has released a statement about how they are shocked with the actions of FIFA despite doing everything FIFA said. A third news that we've also gathered as we are speaking right now, Niranjan, is that the COA, extremely upset with the turn of events, has also said we are disappointed by all that has happened, and we don't know why All India Football Federation has been suspended until further notice. They say we are surprised at the FIFA decision after extensive meetings and decisions were held. We also need to understand why and how did Praful Patel really instigate the FIFA, because this is a question that the All India Football Federation wrote in a letter. Remember viewers, everything we are saying is a part of documents of the Supreme Court, which is going to hear the case tomorrow. This is also very crucial to understand how letters have been written by the All India Football Federation to FIFA asking them not to suspend the All India Football Federation on the basis of what has been said by one person who could be, that is Praful Patel, who could be a detractor or have vested interest. This is what has been stated by the All India Football Federation letter to FIFA. Now I also want to make our viewers understand, at the end of the day, Niranjan, who is going to be really suffering? It's the players, it's the World Cup, it is the viewers, and of course most importantly it is our nation. This comes shockingly on the back heels of the 75th Independence Day celebration that took place yesterday, where Prime Minister Modi had spoken about forward patriotism and love that the sports people have for India. Keeping that in mind, to plant seeds of doubt on the world governing body for football, which is FIFA, and to try and say that any action by Supreme Court is a third party action is blasphemous and almost contemptuous of the court. Now, I also tried to get in touch with the COA members, that is former Supreme Court Judge Justice Dave and Mr. Qureshi and Mr. Ganguly, and they are all currently in a meeting. They have released a statement. I've spoken to some of my sources off record. They are shocked at the turn of events of FIFA banning this, banning the hoisting of the World Cup in football right here in India. But what has to be seen as even more shocking, Niranjan, today, as we get you the entire trail of transcripts that have been written by Praful Patel and talks he's had with state bodies and others, as we get you the letters that Praful Patel has written to FIFA, as we get you the letters the All India Federation wrote on Praful Patel to FIFA, and FIFA's statement coming forward. The only thing that is of concern to us is, as a nation of sports lovers, as a nation who wants to watch football, the Under-17 World Cup for women's would have been held here. It would have been a matter of great prestige, and we're only hoping that the Supreme Court steps in tomorrow and ensures that this ban, this scandal that has happened from FIFA or All India Football Federation for the first time in its history of 85 years should be taken back.
Rhythm, I think we're getting in some reactions, Rhythm. We have Gopal Krishna Kosaraju, who is the Andhra Pradesh Football Association President. Gopal ji, can you hear me?
Yeah. I can hear you.
Sir, do you think there were people within? Do you think there were people within who sabotaged India's chances?
No, I don't want to say that somebody from inside or somebody from outside sabotage or whatever it is. It is so unfortunate to hear the ban of AIFF by the FIFA. And the situation has unfortunately reached this stage. And we are all hopeful that the state associations, that is member associations, we are all hopeful that we can separate the things very soon by conducting the elections with the support of everyone like Supreme Court, with the support of COA, with the support of Ministry of Sports, everyone taking into consideration, including media. We can separate the things and everything will be normal before September 15th. And I am hopeful, and we are all hopeful that we are going to conduct the FIFA Under-17 Women World Cup in India as per the schedule.
Okay. Yeah, but sir, all of this is okay, but there is a lot of politics that is also happening, Mr. Kosaraju. You can't deny the politics. You can't deny that, all of the politics has led to this situation coming down to this, sir. Can you deny that?
No, sir. One thing I'm telling you, we are exactly at the face of ban and we are at huge loss. So we do not want to blame anyone for this stage, right now, we wanted to separate the things. That much I can say. I don't want to name anyone.
I know you may not want to name
There are
anyone, you want to stay away. Yes, but
No.
you're not denying anyone.
There-
You're not denying it. Can you deny it, sir? That was my question. You can't deny it happened.
No. See, the thing is, it is there in the Supreme Court, and there are some inquiries are going on. How can I, as a one-member association, how can I get into this and comment on my own?
Very much. Gopal Krishna Kosaraju. I think the second big breaking news update. Let's go across to that. Rhythm joining us with the next big breaking. Let's go across to that and get you the second part of the breaking, Rhythm. Second part of the breaking of the COA statement. And what the COA has to say now. Rhythm.
Just a short while ago, Niranjan, we broke the news that the COA has been in a meeting, and they're meeting currently near the national capital, where they're going to be deciding on what needs to be done tomorrow before a crucial hearing. As we had broken, the COA comes out in a statement now expressing their surprise and disappointment at how the All India Football Federation has been suspended. They also say that we are surprised because there were extensive discussions that were going on for the past few days between all the stakeholders, which is FIFA, AIFF, COA, the Sports Ministry. They say that while the COA was committed to implement the Supreme Court orders, it was also in dialogue with all the stakeholders. They are surprised because the FIFA has suddenly taken this action. They say in all the discussions, it was suggested the present elections would be conducted with the Electoral College of 36 state representatives. We took on record everything that was said by FIFA, which is to have the EC should consist of 23 members. The 17 members would be including the president. I don't want to go into details of that, but the CEO says strongly we feel very much in sync with the letter by FIFA to the AIFF. As per the draft status, everything that had been wanted to be done was done. They're saying that we also made arrangements as per the Supreme Court's order to conduct the AIFF elections with an independent committee. They say we are surprised, and this is the most important part in the letter, in the press release by the Committee of Administrators looking at football in India. They say we are surprised by the world body's decision to slap a suspension on Indian football in the midst of discussions. The fact that there was a letter from FIFA stating that we are suspended and all stakeholders were in full swing till late in the day on 15th August. Basically that they were continuing to discuss this till yesterday. Then Justice Anil Dave, and I'm quoting him now, former Supreme Court judge who's the chairman of the COA, says it's unfortunate to see such a directive by FIFA during a time when all efforts were being made to put Indian football back on the right track. We are constantly in touch with stakeholders and this has happened. He says it's deplorable for almost the last 2 years. The body whose term has been completed has continued in an absolutely undemocratic manner. No action was taken. He's talking about a body that was being headed allegedly by Praful Patel, and he's saying it's deplorable for the last 2 years. The body whose term had been completed had continued. But when the Supreme Court passed an order to set things right, when the COA and the Sports Ministry were doing their best, the order of the suspension by FIFA has come. And herein is the question we're asking. How can someone who was in power for 16 years, and this is a question that the AIFF asked the world body of FIFA, how is it that you are thinking some earlier detractors, people who were in power for 16 years, can be telling you that the Supreme Court's order was a third party? Then Dr. S.Y. Qureshi goes on to say in this statement, the recent suspension of FIFA comes as a surprise to us because we all were talking on mutually accepted terms. Finally, we've also seen, they are saying that we fortunately hope this could be solved. And lastly, Bhaskar Ganguly, who was former India captain, the third member of the COA, also writes, when a sincere effort was being made by the COA to give due importance to players, the order has been slapped on us. All efforts will be made, but we are really sad. I, in fact, Niranjan, want to go across to Ankit Prasad, who's our colleague, joining us from Praful Patel's residence. Ankit, I've been speaking with you. You've been tracking and trying to get in touch with Praful Patel since morning to hear his version. While we're trying to get in touch with him, how are people, how is the football associations looking at this letter? Because this is no longer only about football, but about our nation and about players and viewers wanting to enjoy a game of football.
Most definitely, Rhythm. In fact, it comes as a huge blow because we are just 2 months away from hosting the Under-17 Women's World Cup. And so for a suspension to come at this time, at a time when the committee or the Committee of Administrators also says that they're in talks with FIFA at this very moment to discuss is not the right time for it to happen to India. We are outside right now, a number of residences of Praful Patel. There are a number of buildings next to us that are linked to him, and we are told that this is where he stays. But he's not been very forthcoming with answers, so we've not been able to get his version of events. But for certain, he remains to be, Rhythm, a member of the FIFA Council. And it also says in the suspension order of FIFA that the Council unanimously voted. So there is a question also whether as part of the FIFA Council, the only Indian member, what was his role in this decision making that had gone on. Also, of course, it was for the removal of Praful Patel that the Supreme Court had stepped in, and in May it had removed him from the office because he had not held an election after the completion of his third term. The election was supposed to have been held in December of 2020. That was not held, and so that is why we came to this point. But most certainly it's a blow, and we've heard the former footballers, we've heard the likes of Baichung Bhutia also speak to us, and they have depicted how disappointing it is. Tickets had been sold. The selling of tickets for the Under-17 Women's World Cup had already begun in Delhi. There are 16 teams that are set to take part. Also, as host country, India would have been one of the 16. India does not have a long record of having participated in FIFA events, but most certainly football is an extremely important sport in India. It is highly watched, both the league and international competitions. And so this would have been a big opportunity for Indian players to appear at a top FIFA event. And that's how it happens. Look at the world's greatest players in the men's and the women's game. Both Lionel Messi as well as Cristiano Ronaldo played at the younger level. Messi, in fact, played in an Under-19 World Cup, and that is where he shot to stardom. And so this is the chance for these players to leave an impact and also to establish a kind of camaraderie that benefits them in the senior team as well. And right now, that is currently in doubt, Rhythm, because India has been stripped of the rights to host this World Cup for the moment at least, unless these elections can be held, unless the new constitution of the AIFF can be put in place. And once that happens, FIFA is brought on board and FIFA cancels this revocation. But most certainly there are a number of questions regarding what Praful Patel's role continued to be after he was removed from the AIFF because he had outstayed his welcome. How did he continue to wield influence within FIFA is a question that he needs to answer, and right now he's not been very forthcoming as we report from outside his house.
Ankit, I think we just want to interrupt you for one moment as we are getting news that we now have on the phone line with us N. Biren Singh, the Chief Minister of Manipur, who's patched. Sir, one question to you. Football is something we all love. It is something that the entire nation wants to watch. This FIFA ban that has been slapped on India because of certain vested interests, how are you looking at this action by FIFA?
Mr. Biren Singh, sir, can you hear us, sir? Mr. Biren Singh, good evening.
Good evening, good evening.
Sir, my colleague Rhythm just asked you a question with this ban on FIFA, the ban on India by FIFA. All of us are a lot disappointed, and we believe, and my colleague Rhythm is breaking the details of how some within India may have sabotaged our chances. Internal politics led to this big embarrassment. Sir, can I get your response? Mr. Biren Singh, as someone who's the Chief Minister and also someone who has a lot of stake in Indian football, sir.
Okay. Hello?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
No, just, it is very, very, very unfortunate. And, just I want to appeal to my Indians. Just we politicians should not involve in the sports. There's, there's how the football is increasing and becoming popular in India. And suddenly this kind of, action taken up by the FIFA through some of our negligence and some of our irresponsible people, it is highly condemnable. And from my side, I want to appeal to immediately to reconstitute as per the FIFA constitution and so that we may host the Under-17 Women's World Cup in India.
So, are you convinced? Because, the document trail with us is shocking. My colleague Rhythm is here, sir. I want you to hear her out. Rhythm, why don't you tell the Honorable Chief Minister about this letter and what it says about Mr. Praful Patel. Rhythm.
Yes, sir, as Niranjan is saying, I wanted to ask you, as someone who's played football, who loves the game, we've now got and accessed letters which show that someone who was at the helm of the All India Football Federation, Praful Patel, has written to FIFA saying that the Supreme Court appointing a committee of administrators has to be seen as third-party interference. In fact, he wrote that FIFA has slapped us with this ban, and our Indian Football Federation has written back to FIFA saying that we should not listen to the word of detractors who were at the helm of affairs for 16 years.
No, really, very, very sorry just knowing of that kind of such letters written by one person, Mr. Prabhu. I really, these people spoil India. Indian sports, these people, these opportunities, I can say them. I proudly can say as a CM and as a football lover, these opportunities people have spoiled India in sports. So we should take the proper action against him, and immediately we should ask to the FIFA the cancelling the proposal and the letter of this Praful Patel. So that it is doing it, in his personal level, not at the level of the FIFA. So I am really shocked after listening to this news, and where just where India now catching up in football also, not only in the cricket and the hockey, we are popularizing and becoming one of the football lover in the in the entire world. So in the meantime, there's cancelling of holding of under 17 women's World Cup is very, very, very shameful because of him. So just he should surrender and he should apologize to the nations.
Mr. Biren Singh, very strong words. In fact, the case comes up in Supreme Court tomorrow, and you know, and it's a matter of pride. The fact that we were going to host the Under-17 World Cup for women, and this was such an honor for us. For the country, we celebrated Independence Day yesterday, Tiranga wave across the country, and this was going to be one big event. Are you hopeful that we can do something at this point? Mr. Biren Singh, do you think something can still be salvaged at this point?
You see, we have to do all out. We have to do all out to host the Under-17 World Women Cup to have in India, and we have learned a lesson, and we should warn some opportunist people who are always try to use the sports association as a political weapon. We should stop it. We should send a strong message from the people, 140 million people, to them that ये ऐसे नहीं होना चाहिए. Don't use sports association as a weapon for their political, weapon.
Are you seeing any political motive in this, sir? Can I ask you that?
I know I cannot, but himself he's a politician,
Yes.
And why he is doing like this? Why he is spoiling everything? The World Cup, getting a World Cup tournament is not a mere thing. Getting to host a World Cup event might be under 17 or might be 20 or might be 21, but it is not a job. It is a big achievement of the Indian football. How he can spoil it? How we can allow him to spoil? We should raise our voice unitely, and we should ask the FIFA to come and host to allow to have the tournament, and we shall expel this type of people from the association lifelong.
Well, absolutely, sir. Sir, thank you so much. It was good to talk to you, Mr. Biren Singh. I think we need more vocal. A lot of people, Mr. Biren Singh, let me tell you, and Rhythm, I'd like to tell Mr. Biren Singh, the Honorable Chief Minister of Manipur, a lot of politicians, a lot of sports bodies, sports associations, sporting association presidents, they don't want to talk because they're upset or they're scared. They may be scared, they may be wary because they don't want to take a stand. But what you have just said, Mr. Biren Singh, hats off to you for taking such a non-compromising position, such a strong stand. Isn't it, Rhythm?
Yes. Niranjan, absolutely, and he called a spade because what we are trying to say here is, and I'm going to first go across to Savio Rodriguez, BJP leader, also joining us now. Savio, there have been so many debates, so many talks that we've been a part of where we talk about the love for India. This time it's about football, Savio, and it's shocking that FIFA bans Indian World Cup. When they do so and they say the under-17 is not going to be hosted right here in India, they say there are certain third parties who are interfering, which they're giving an indication is the top court of the country that's going to hear the matter tomorrow. Savio, the only reason the Supreme Court came into this muck is to put the house right of the Indian Football Federation. There were people at its helm for the past 16 years without having the right to be in power, and there was action that needed to be taken. How are you going to be, Savio, looking at the FIFA ban on Indian Federation hosting the tournament for the Under-17 Women's World Cup?
Well, Rhythm, my first reaction when I heard the news was that I was extremely disappointed. Football as a game has been picking up across the country, and coming from a state from Goa, football is the life of many of our youngsters, both boys and girls, as far as Goa is concerned, and the rest of India as well. Now, obviously, FIFA has taken its decision based on certain guidelines that they follow. But for us as a sport, we are still not turned into a sporting country. And, we're slowly getting there. But these federations that act as bodies, which are mostly controlled by political lobbies, do not understand the need for us to encourage sports, and why is it important for us to create a sporting culture in every corner of this country. And that's where the problem is. The problem is politicians being in charge of sporting federations when they have nothing whatsoever to do with sports. And that's where the problem is. So today, as FIFA has taken its decision on the AIFF, you have to look at the fact that, yes, there may have been some problems in the federation itself. But with the federation having the problem, India has lost the chance to actually host this particular event. You're seeing it with the Commonwealth Games, you're seeing it with the Lusitania Games, you're seeing it, with various sports that India has. There's always some issue or the other that crops up. And therefore, we have to keep politicians away from sports, and that's what needs to be done on an immediate basis. Those who have contributed to sports must be allowed to be within the political arena to take care of the sports, not people who've got nothing to do with that sporting culture.
Stay with me, Savio. Rhythm, getting in a breaking reaction of, you want to go to Habibur Rahman Mondal. Habibur ji, can you hear me? Habibur ji, namaste. Habibur ji, आवाज आ रही है?
हाँ, आ रही है.
Habibur ji, Habibur Rahman Mondal is a former Indian footballer. Habibur ji, ये जो अभी हमारे कोलीग रिदमानंद भारद्वाज भी ज्वाइन कर रहे हैं, वो अभी हमारे पास एक चिट्ठी है, चिट्ठी में लिखा है कि प्रफुल्ल पटेल जी के बारे में कुछ लिखा है यहाँ पे, जो हमारा बैन था, फीफा का बैन, उसमें उनका हाथ होने का संभव है. तो आपका कुछ कहना है इस पे ऑन पॉलिटिशियन, जो नेता लोग हैं, नेता लोग और फुटबॉल एसोसिएशन पे इंट्रो या जो मेडलिंग होता है, उस पे आपको कुछ बोलना है जी हबीबुर जी?
हाँ, ये बहुत दुख का बात है जो इंडियन फुटबॉल को जो इंटरनेशनल लेवल पे और AFC और ये सब नहीं खेलने के लिए बोल दिया, फीफा ने जो लेटर भेज दिया, ये बहुत दुख का बात है इंडियन प्लेयर होके. तो ये हम चाहते हैं जो फीफा ने जो टाइम दिया था जो ऑल इंडिया फुटबॉल फेडरेशन को जो एक कमेटी बनाने के लिए, लेकिन वो उसको टाइम का अंदर कर नहीं पाया, इसलिए तो फीफा ने तो लेटर भेज दिया. तो मैं चाहता हूँ जो भी ऑल इंडिया फुटबॉल फेडरेशन में जो ऑफिशियल है वो लोग को रिक्वेस्ट करता हूँ जो एक जल्दी से जल्दी कमेटी गठन करे और इसको किसी को ना किसी को बनाए जो अच्छा फॉर्मल प्लेयर होगा, तो वो सही रहेगा.
क्या आपको लगता है कि नेताओं ने स्पोर्ट्स एसोसिएशन में मेडलिंग करके उनका पोजीशन देश के ऊपर रख के काम कर रहे हैं।
देखिए, जो ऑल इंडिया फुटबॉल फेडरेशन में चलता है, जो पॉलिटिशियन लोग जो होता है, जो प्रेसिडेंट होता है, लेकिन मेरा ख्याल से ये नहीं होना चाहिए, क्योंकि जो फुटबॉल फील्ड में रहता है, जो फॉर्मल प्लेयर बहुत है, जो एक्सपीरियंस है, जो प्लेयर जैसे लाइक बाइचुन भूटिया हो गया, क्लाइमेक्स हो गया, मोहेश गावाली हो गया, वेंकटेश, तो ये सब प्लेयर जो रिटायर पर्सन है, ये लोग का बैठाना चाहिए, क्योंकि वो लोग जानते हैं फुटबॉल क्या होता है और फुटबॉल कल्चर उसको पूरा बराबर मालूम है। तो मैं चाहता हूँ जो पॉलिटिशियन जो लोग होता है वो छोड़ के फुटबॉल प्लेयर को जाना चाहिए।
हाँ जी, हाँ जी।
और सारे के सारे जो एक प्लेयर है जो इंडिया।
ओके, थैंक यू हबीबुर जी, थैंक यू बात करने के लिए। आई एम हैंडिंग इट ओवर टू माय कोलीग Shravan, who's going to take this forward with both Ridhaman and Bharadwaj breaking the story, and also Ankit Prasad, who's tracking Praful Patel. Shravan, over to you, Shravan.
Well, thank you very much, Niranjan. We'll start the edition of This Is Exclusive with that big story that's broken by my colleague Ridhaman Bharadwaj. I'll request her to stay on, as well as Ankit, as we get the breaking news on This Is Exclusive. FIFA banned days after mega allegations against Praful Patel. FIFA suspends Indian Football Federation over alleged third-party influence. Congress exposed as Punjab government unravels VVIP treatment given to jail gangster Mukhtar Ansari. Seven ITBP Jawans martyred, at least 30 injured in tragic bus accident in Patel. Tipu Sultan Savarkar poster worn turns violent in Shivamogga. One person stabbed for honouring Savarkar. Well, on the day that FIFA suspended India and fans and players and broken from the news, we break the first part of the most sensational scandal. Republic has now accessed key documents, stunning trails and the most sensational allegations, which are now on record. What pieces together is a stunning story in which sports politics may have thrown India under the bus. The allegation is that former Union Minister Praful Patel may have actively worked and colluded to get India banned at FIFA. The allegation isn't being made by us. It is all by the Supreme Court appointed committee, the COA. Let me bring in my colleague Rhythm, who's getting us the details, and also Ankit, who's joining us from outside Praful Patel's residence. First to you, Rhythm. Take us through the details that you're picking up, because once again, the role of a politician comes under the scanner. This time, many would say that it has never happened in the 85 years of existence that you look at this kind of a suspension, all because what they call interference of third party. What does this essentially mean?
Very good evening to all the people who are joining us on This Is Exclusive, Shravan, and this becomes so crucial because, like I spoke to Ankit, our colleague who's outside Praful Patel's residence, answers need to be given, accountability needs to be there. The story is simple. This time it's football. We don't want politics and demand and desire for power to take over what is at stake here. Today what we are talking about is the FIFA ban that has come shockingly, surprisingly today on hosting the Under-17 World Cup that was to be held in India in 3 cities in October. Why has this happened? Because allegedly FIFA says They believe that there is a third party interference in the laws that have to be governed only by the Football Federation. Who are they talking about? They're talking, viewers, about the top court of the country, the Supreme Court, that tried to solve the muck in the All India Football Federation by saying there needs to be a committee overseeing whatever's happening here. Why was the Supreme Court called to do this? Because there were certain people who were continuing to be at the helm of affairs, like former chief of the All India Football Federation, Praful Patel, who had been in power for nearly 16 years. Viewers, we are not saying this. This is given in a letter of the All India Football Federation to the FIFA, where they write they are shocked and surprised that the Supreme Court, trying to put this house in order, is being called to be a third party interference. The words third party interference, viewers, even though they sound technical, Shravan and Ankit, is very clear. The Supreme Court has been told to try and see how this house can be put in order. They told the Committee of Administrators to look into it and have a duly democratically elected body to look at football in India. Now letters were shot off to FIFA, and not only letters, but we have transcripts of certain conversations that took place between Praful Patel and state bodies, where it's being said that letters that have been written to FIFA should be the bone of a review petition filed in the Supreme Court. While we'll also try and go across to Madhurima, who's joining us from where the COA met a short while ago and gave out a press release. The biggest thing to note here, Shravan, Ankit and Madhurima, is it is the game of football, just like earlier the game of cricket, is going to be put under stress. It's the players and the viewers who are going to suffer. And the only thing that needs to be asked here is, why were seeds of suspicion put in the mind of the World Football Governing Body? And Madhurima, where you are, the COA just a short while back came out with a statement where they said, we are shocked and surprised at the slap of India hosting the World Cup by FIFA. Tell us what's happening there, or what happened there a short while ago. Before Madhurima, I let you speak. I'm extremely sorry. We also need to, Madhurima, just go across Shravan to Kalyan Chaube, former Indian goalkeeper who's continuing to be patched with us. Mr. Chaube, you're also a part of this litigation in the Supreme Court, where there are several pleas and counter pleas that are going to be heard tomorrow. How do you look at the role of vested interest writing to FIFA? And how do you think this has to be solved? Because Indians want the Under-17 World Cup to be only played in India.
It is true. It is very unfortunate that FIFA banned All India Football Federation. But when at this moment, when FIFA is banning All India Football Federation, saying there is interference by third party, but also, people who have a concern about Indian football. Since 2016, when Mr. Praful Patel was president of All India Football Federation, then that election was not according to the law and constitution. And therefore, since 2017, this issue is pending that All India Football Federation need to conduct an election and they need to run this federation on democratic way. So I feel it is very much essential and necessary for a sport like football to run in a democratic way. I have full faith, hope and confidence on Supreme Court that their judgment will be betterment for Indian football and best for the Indian football lovers.
Yes, and Mr. Chaube, before we let you go, just one question. There is a contempt plea in the top court of the country against certain actions of Praful Patel, who has written letters to FIFA saying that they could ban Indian Federation only on the basis of third-party interference.
Yes, incidentally...
Rhythm, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I think so we're getting it. Rhythm, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We're just getting a reaction right now from Baichung Bhutia. Let's listen it.
It's very unfortunate that FIFA has banned Indian football. And at the same time, I feel it's a very harsh decision from FIFA to ban Indian football. But at the same time, I think it's a great opportunity to get our system right. And it's very important that all the stakeholders, the federation, state association, sports ministry, to come together, get the system right, and everybody work for betterment of Indian football. It's very unfortunate that FIFA has banned Indian football. And at the same time, I feel it's a very harsh decision from FIFA to ban Indian football. But at the same time, I think it's a great opportunity to get our system right. And it's very important that all the stakeholders, the federation, state association, sports ministry, to come together, get the system right, and everybody work for betterment of Indian football.
Yes.
Rhythm, just bringing you back on this. What has immediately happened right now is the fact that we have now been stripped the right to host the under-17, and that's exactly what perhaps Manipur Chief Minister N. Biren Singh was also saying. Politics aside, what we are essentially looking at is the ramifications of what really happens when politicians are at the helm of affairs in sports bodies.
And Shravan, that is the question to ask, because here we are seeing very shocking words that are being given by Praful Patel in a letter that is put before the Supreme Court to FIFA. On the basis, we believe, of such kind of knowledge, FIFA goes ahead and bans Indian Federation from hosting the All India World Cup. And I also want to add just one thing. This is not we who are saying it. I want to give our viewers the exact words of the All India Federation that has gone on record to say that we are surprised with the way this is happening, and it is not us, but we also want to say, they're saying that do not listen to people when they've profited from this game for the past 16 years and they are now going ahead and becoming detractors at the cost of the sport. Madhurima, you joining us from where the COA meeting is happening in the capital. The COA, viewers, is the committee of administrators that is now looking at All India Football Federation. They've come out with a statement at how they are shocked at this ban that has been started by FIFA today, despite the fact, Madhurima, there were fruitful discussions that the COA was having with FIFA members.
Well, absolutely, Rhythm. The COA has expressed a lot of shock over this entire issue, because they press upon in their statement that how they were in the middle of very serious discussion just ahead of this very crucial tournament that our country was about to host. And not only were they following all the rules, but were also abiding by the Supreme Court order as well. And in accordance to that order, along with the sports ministry, all strides were being made, Rhythm, to make sure that this particular event and the future of football in India is secure. Right behind me is the building of the Federation of India Football over here. We're bringing you the live visuals from this particular building, where this very crucial meeting of the COA members was held. As soon as this news broke, these members came rushing to this particular building to have discussions, and after that they asserted that this has come at a time when extensive discussions were going on for the past few days between all stakeholders, including FIFA, AFC, AIFF, COA and the sports ministry, as I was asserting that the Supreme Court order had given. And this all is happening, according to the August 3rd, 2022 order. And in the discussion held among FIFA and AFC, the sports ministry, in the few days, it was suggested that the present elections may be concluded in accordance to all the rules and regulations. And this particular news coming in as a shock, though all the preventive measures, they have said that they're going to take into cognizance what all measure can be taken to rectify this entire situation, because it is imperative, looking at the sports streak of our country, the way we have been performing at various levels, may it be Olympics or CWG, it's quite a setback. Yes. And no stone will be left unturned to make sure that that this situation is fixed as soon as possible.
And like you're telling us, Madhurima, Shravan, I also want to bring in Ankit. Ankit, I spoke to you earlier in the day. You were at Praful Patel's residence. What have you picked up? Because there are letters, counter letters, transcripts, so many things that continue happening on this developing story.
Absolutely, we are outside what is said to be his residence, but there's no clear indication whether or not he's here, because even our sources within the NCP, and I've checked, they are not very forthcoming about where Praful Patel is. But there are a number of questions, and like you've listed out, what was his involvement after having been removed by the Supreme Court and the COA from the AIFF? What role did he have to play as a member of the FIFA Council, the very body that unanimously voted to suspend India? What role did he have to play there? And like your letters have pointed out, Rhythm, what role did Praful Patel have in suggesting that the Supreme Court's attempt to fix the mess in the AIFF could be viewed prima facie as interference of a third party? That is something that Praful Patel needs to answer. But on the question of how disappointing this is, that 2 months before we are set to host the FIFA Under-17 World Cup, I'd just like to point out that India would have participated in this World Cup. India does not have a long track record of participating in FIFA events, but we would have taken part by dint of being the hosts in this World Cup. Similarly, the men have qualified for the 2023 Asian Cup that is held next year. That is again a competition that we will at this point not be able to take part in because FIFA has suspended the AIFF. Similarly, at the club level, ATK Mohan Bagan is currently in the AFC Asian Cup, but it will not be able to take part because the AIFF has been suspended. So that's how it impacts the players. In terms of the fans, Rhythm, in 2002, Korea and Japan hosted the FIFA Men's World Cup. And at that time, both those countries got to take part, and it was a festival of football. And because of that, both South Korea and Japan have become mainstays in world football. Similarly, it happened with South Africa in 2010. South Africa doesn't normally qualify, but it was one of the 32 teams because it was the host. And now there is an awakening of football there. So it really goes a long way. The players have earned the right to take part. The country has also earned the right to host the competition because FIFA doesn't dole out this tournament hosting rights. You have to compete in a process with other countries, and you have to prove to FIFA that you have the best tournament to offer. And that is why India got this Under-17 FIFA World Cup, but now stands to be stripped of it because of the interference of a person allegedly who had been removed from the AIFF top role because he has outstayed his welcome. And even after that, as a member of FIFA, he could have played a part in this AIFF being suspended. So that is some of the questions that need to be asked and need to be answered by Praful Patel. And also it is a big blow and a big disappointment to fans, unless of course the FIFA can be gotten to overturn the suspension of AIFF and we can indeed host the Under-17 World Cup.
Churchill Alemao is joining us on this broadcast. Mr. Alemao, we've seen the kind of response Goa has always given to any sort of tournament when it comes to football. And not just Goa, perhaps there are several states in the country today have been extremely disappointed with what has really happened. But Mr. Alemao, you were from the party where Praful Patel is. Today what we are witnessing is because of the interference of political leaders like Praful Patel, we are witnessing this happening in front of our eyes. It's your party, the party that you have been associated with, your leader at some point in time, who is now essentially responsible for the rot in the Football Federation. Mr. Alemao, if you can hear me, today what has happened has been extremely disappointing for almost everyone in this country. And one person allegedly responsible for the current plight, a man from a party that you have been associated with, Praful Patel. We'll try and reconnect with Mr. Alemao in a short while from now. I would like to thank my colleagues Rhythm as well as Ankit and Madhurima for joining us on This Is Exclusive.